Om Tat Sat. Welcome to Gyan Bhakti. We focus exclusively on spirituality, Vedanta, and Sanatana Dharma. Please subscribe our channel for mystical meanings of the scriptures and daily satsang. Our humble prostrations to all pervading Brahman or God, our worshipful Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayananda Ji Maharaj, all sages and scriptures, and to the divinity in each of you. We are currently exploring the scripture Mysticism of Mahabharata. Commentary is by Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda Ji Maharaj and narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. So we were on the episode of Sage Vyasa comes to dinner. And so the sage and his 10,000 disciples went to the river and repeated mantras, performing the normal rituals that are done prior to taking food. They were completely unconcerned with the problem of how Yudhishthir was to feed them. They just expected to come back and find food in abundance. While the sage and his disciples were by the river, Draupadi began to worry about how she could feed 10,000 when she couldn't even feed one. If Durvasa and her disciples were not satisfied, Durvasa would pronounce a curse, and his curse could destroy anyone within a moment. Knowing that she had no support, no one to turn to, she prayed to Lord Krishna to help her handle this seemingly impossible dilemma. When Krishna, who was at that time relaxing in his royal palace in Dwarka, heard Draupadi's prayer, he adopted yogic power and immediately transported himself to the forest where Draupadi waited. Seeing Krishna, Draupadi was delighted and began to tell him how Durvasa and his disciples had come unannounced, leaving her in this terrible predicament. Krishna said, "Please, Draupadi, I have come a long distance and I'm very hungry. So hungry that I couldn't listen to anything you said. So please give me some food. Is this the way you should treat me?" Draupadi felt ashamed and said, "Oh Krishna, I have no food. Once I eat food from this vessel, it will not produce anymore." Krishna said, "I'm dying of hunger. Bring me the vessel." And so Draupadi shyly brought the vessel to Krishna. Krishna eagerly looked into it, moved his finger all around the vessel, and found a little vegetable leaf stuck to the side. Putting the tiny leaf into his mouth and chewing it up, he declared, "I am satisfied. This has completely appeased my hunger." And the moment Krishna felt his hunger appeased, he directed his will towards all those 10,000 disciples of Durvasa and to Durvasa himself, and brought about a most miraculous development. Durvasa's disciples were still at the river taking their baths and repeating mantras when suddenly they were overcome by an unexplainable feeling of fullness. They all felt as if they had already eaten too much and their stomachs were terribly bloated. They turned to Sage Durvasa and asked, "What should we do now?" The sage replied, "We have done something terribly wrong by coming to Yudhishthira. We have made them prepare great quantities of food to be wasted. Yudhishthira is filled with the power of austerity. I am terribly afraid of approaching the Pandavas. The only thing is to run away." Thus saying, Durvasa led his 10,000 disciples in a quick escape from the forest. When the Pandavas learnt about this sudden flight, they thought it was another trick of Durvasa and that he would suddenly emerge and surprise them. Krishna smiled and told Yudhishthira that they did not have to worry about Durvasa and his disciples any longer. They had run away due to the effulgence of Yudhishthira's austerity. Thus the great calamity was averted and the Pandavas relaxed. Having given the Pandavas his blessings, Krishna disappeared. In this colorful story, Durvasa is the personification of all forms of trouble and pain that constantly harass human existence. The volatile sage and his band of disciples are symbolic of all the myriad causes of anger, irritability, agitation, and frustration that abide internally within the mind as well as externally in the world. Durvasa comes to visit everyone day by day in the form of rajasic or distracted thoughts and in the form of individuals and circumstances that cause frustration and rob one of patience. Like Durvasa, the part of your mind that is Rajasic is always clamoring for satisfaction, yet it can never be satisfied. No matter how much you give it, it is always stirred up by its insatiable need for more and more attention. Externally as well, no matter how hard an individual tries to serve this world process, it is never appeased. It remains unsatisfied, demanding more and more from you. There are two types of people who serve Durvasa. One is like Duryodhana, who serves with an ulterior motive. He endures the austerities of the world and gains willpower, and the resulting willpower is used by the ego for selfish projects. Duryodhana practiced austerities in order to please Durvasa, but with an ulterior motive, to cause the destruction of the Pandavas. The Pandavas, on the other hand, had a different method of attending to Durvasa. They welcomed the sage, not knowing how they were going to handle him and his disciples, but with a deep faith that there was an unknown resource that would help them. Draupadi, imbued with faith and a profound sense of surrender to God, invoked the presence of Lord Krishna. Responding immediately to the distress of his devotees, Krishna rushed to her side and asked for the vessel. The vessel represents the chitta, or the unconscious mind, and the little leaf represents the shubh samskaras, or pure subtle impressions that abide in the unconscious. When we offer the good impressions of our subconscious to Krishna, the Atman, the divine self, the innermost reality of all, he is satisfied. Although satisfying Durvasa is extremely difficult, satisfying Krishna is extremely simple for a devotee. As the Gita teaches, even a small leaf, a flower, a fruit, or even just water offered with profound devotion will please the Lord. And Krishna's satisfaction is the satisfaction of all. The spirit of Durvasa can be satisfied only when Krishna is satisfied. When this happens, Durvasa and all his disciples run away. Just a little act of sincere devotion directed towards God within you, and all the clamoring thought waves of the mind disperse. Through the power of divine grace, the world with all its problems and troubles turns away from a devotee whose mind is surrendered to God. With this, we conclude our satsang for today. We will see you in tomorrow's episode, where we will discuss Jayadratha kidnaps Draupadi. This is Swami Nikhilanand. Om Tat Sat.